So before we start the part one individual tax, I let me tell you the what exactly you will be getting actually, right? If you have subscribed the Climb, it definitely the Climb is one of the leading enroll agent material. So basically, that's something which is very important that please use the Climb. If you don't have a Climb, please let me know, right? That is a Climb resource we are going to use. So we are the approved training partner of Climb. If you see the enroll agent exam nowadays, the result percentage of enroll agent is very high. Let me tell you, passing percentage I'm talking about. So please take the advantage. Even the last year result was bad, but now I think so. Even the question they are asking also is not so difficult and very easy to clear now. So you take the advantage, and especially they are considering the result percentage. Monitor closely what is the result percentage. Most of the, so on an average, the result percentage. Global talking, global percentage I'm talking about is it is around 75 to 80%. It means that out of 10 students, 8 students can easily clear the enroll agent exam, right? So I don't think so it's so difficult. Yes, you have to solve the questions, right? And let's have a habit of solving at least on daily basis. Moment I am done with the theory portion, please solve the practice question. Obviously I'll be also solving the practice question so that you understand that how I am solving the question, right? Because that's a technique how to solve the question. So use Gleim thoroughly. We also have the portal, right? That is a LMS portal where we have most of the enroll agent questions are there, right? In individual text, a lot of questions are there, and which we have taken from the retired uh, EA exam. And not only that, we have also tweaked the question, and we have also designed our own questions. So obviously, we know very well that you won't get the same to same question, but they just tweak the question, they change the numbers, right? What I also observed that sometimes they are borrowing the question from the CPA, right? So basically it is vice versa. Even the CPA regulation where they also borrow the questions from the enroll agent. So obviously we should also leverage that resources, right? So we are also the approved training partner of Wiley. So basically that's a good at least you get different resources, different question bank to solve, and that becomes very easy for you because confidence level should be very high. Second thing I just want to say that uh, result is instant, means moment you attempt all the 100 question, immediately you will get the result, right? You don't have to wait for the 1 month and 2 month, right? Because this is machine graded. It means that all the questions are MCQs. It means that immediately you will get the result. So that also is a good thing. So anyway, so before we start, let me share the screen. You can see the this is our first topic, preliminary work to prepare the tax return, and we are going to just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. So you can see the Excel file here. Basically, this is our first topic, which is nothing but preliminary work to prepare the tax return. So obviously, if you are practicing chartered accountant, you must be knowing, right, what exactly you should do before you prepare the tax return. So there is we have a obviously we use the prior year's return for comparison. Now this is something which is very important, that we can leverage the whatever the prior year returns, so that this becomes very easy actually. So whenever we always see that, okay, fine, the prior what is the return becomes very easy for you. The preparation of the client's tax return for the current year normally begins with a review of client's prior year income tax returns. Okay, so because you have to be familiarize oneself with the issues on the prior year tax return, which will allow you the tax return preparer to note the issues that may recurring in nature, for example, right? So we when we study the prior return, you will come to know what exactly the history. And basically, when you prepare the return, we always compare the current year's transaction with the prior years, because you should have a history. Without history, it becomes very difficult. Otherwise, you will be spending a lot of time. If you see the simple 1040 tax return, basically individuals use the 1040 forms. Simple 1040 tax returns normally should not take more than 2 hours, right? So you can easily finish, you can easily prepare, especially if you have the tax preparation software, then it becomes very easy actually, right? Because I've seen that even most of the times, if you are getting the returns from the boutique firms like boutique CPA firms, right? It is just like in India, how you are getting the files. Like for example, they scan the document and they will send they will you have to, from the scanned document, you have to prepare the return. However, in case of Big Four, they have the established workflow system. So workflow system, obviously, it is very systematic and organized, right? So there is a prescribed format is there, where they will first provide you the inputs, and then you have to process the tax return. But I'll tell you, you will learn only if you get the return from the boutique CPA firm, because there's something. Not only you have to prepare the tax return, but sometimes you have to prepare the personal financial statements. So personal financial statement, especially for the business tax return, you have to prepare the income statement, balance sheet, and as per the US GAAP, right? And as per the IRS, US GAAP is different and IRS is different. US GAAP is accounting standard, United States generally accepted accounting standard, whereas IRS is Internal Revenue Services, right? So the full form of IRS is Internal Revenue Services, right? And here in India we say Income Tax Office, and we always say here the section number, right? Where in US we say Internal Revenue Code, IRC, Internal Revenue Code. So obviously we try to refer the IRC. I'll tell you one thing, the US tax is not so difficult at all compared to the Indian income tax. Indian income tax, only the problem is that sometimes you may find ambiguity, number one thing, right? And the second thing, you will find that a lot of cases are pending. Whenever there is ambiguity, you will find a lot of cases, whereas US tax is not so, you can say that it's very straightforward. The language is very clear, right? I'm not saying that there won't be any ambiguity, but yes, it is basically it is clear actually. Instruction is very good. In fact, if you see the IRS website, for every code, they provide the sufficient explanation, and this will definitely help tax preparer to easily prepare the tax. So obviously you may not find any problems actually, because these are all the permutation combinations are covered, and it becomes very easy for individual. Forget about the tax preparer, individual also is easy for them. Only thing is that you have to read the code. Otherwise, the tax preparer, always play a important role here. So tax preparer, I'll tell you, the role of tax preparer is not only preparation of tax return, but also the advisory services. Now, advisory services is obviously that is something which is a value-added services, and obviously you will earn a lot of money. Only the preparation of tax return is a one thing, but then you advise client, right? So obviously, if you see the current syllabus, we have one of the topic is tax advisory. So basically, how you are going to advise your client. For example, especially the business entity, whether you want to form C corporation, S corporation, or LLPs, a partnership firm, limited. So all these different entities are there. So you have to advise the client depending upon the scenario and depending upon the regulation. So we have to understand that how we can help taxpayer in when for in tax planning is important rather than. So I am not saying that you should evade the tax planning I'm talking about, right? So obviously use of prior year's return for the comparison is something which is very important, right? And in the event of taxpayer, if they does not have a copy of the prior year income tax return, then what happen, he or she can obtain one from the Internal Revenue Service by completing form number 4506. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Because you have to you are becoming the enroll agent. Obviously, the form numbers are very important. Sometimes they ask the question directly. What is the form number? So for getting the duplicate tax return. So obviously we need to know the form numbers. Now anyway, I'll what I'll be doing actually, I'll prepare. I have the summary also. The form numbers, what is the objective of the form numbers, so that becomes very easy for you. So you can request for the copy or the transcript of the text form, and then they will mail it along with the required fee. And and as an alternative, you can also get the transcript, which is a computer printout of the prior year return, and it may be obtained from the IRS. And also you can use the same form, you can use 4506, and the transcripts may be requested online. You can by phone or by mail. Definitely they will ask for the verification, and then they can send. And there is no charge for the transcript, which shows most line items from the original returns, including the accompanying forms and the schedules. So transcript basically you can call and you can get you can say that I need a copy of return. Just send me the transcript. They will send you actually, right? A tax return transcript shows most line items from an income tax return. So we have the form 1040s, which is the individual tax return, 1040A, which is the amended return, and so and so forth, right? So basically, you get the whatever the tax return you must have originally filed, including your accompanying forms and the schedules. In most of the cases, a transcript includes all the informations lender or government agency needs, but it does not show any changes the taxpayer, his or her representative or IRS made after it was filed. So obviously, the changes you are after you file the tax return is not going to reflect. So tax return transcript is generally available for the current and the past 3 years. Basically, so basically you get the, obviously, if you get at least for the last year also, that is suffice. But if you get for the last 3 years, definitely this will be helpful, because this is a preliminary work. This is what exactly you require before you prepare the tax return. So IRS also can also provide a tax account transcript, which is also free. It shows the basic data from the taxpayer income tax return, including your marital status, type of return file, adjusted gross income, taxable income. So transcript also include any adjustment the taxpayer or IRS made after the taxpayer file. So obviously, this is something you can also get the additional details. Now, what is the accuracy of prior return, right? So accuracy of prior returns, that is a review of the client year's prior tax return could reveal errors also or mistakes such as intentional or accidental omission of income or overstated deduction. So the discovery of these mistakes could benefit the client or result in additional tax to the taxpayer, because the mistake and omission could result in reporting additional income or reducing a deduction on an amended tax return. In the case of a taxpayer who in a prior year has omitted some income or overstated a deduction or credit, the tax return preparer should recommend to the client that he or she should amend his or her return so as to correct mistakes occurring on a prior tax return, which is a circular 230, the guide for the tax practitioner. Obviously, there are some ethics are there, right? For some reason, if you are finding some omission is there, or there is a if there is a some error is there, you should also point out immediately, because that is a ethical conduct is very important for the tax preparer. So obviously, you suggest client to file an amended return. In such circumstances, the enrolled agent or the tax practitioner should consider whether he or she should continue to work with and represent this client. Obviously, if the client says that no, you please leave it, I don't want to file the amended return, you can disassociate. You can say that, then definitely you should not take that assignment. Circular 230 does not require EA to serve professional relationship with the client in such circumstances. So basically, that is something which is a professional ethics. They say very clearly that you not only you have to protect the revenue, but also you have to protect your client also, because the client, if suppose there is some problem that some ethical issues comes, obviously you have to tell client and then say that okay fine, this is not a ethically right, and you can, if the client says that they don't agree, obviously you can disassociate. So review of the prior's income tax return could reveal beneficial carryovers from the prior years that had not been yet been utilized, such as you have capital loss carryover, charitable contribution carryover. So you'll be learning a lot of things. For example, certain limit is there. You can, if you have exhausted the limit, say for example charitable contribution is there, that is the 50% limit is there, 60% if you pay by cash, or that is called long term capital gain loss is there. So capital loss up to $3,000 you can claim, and beyond that you can carry forward. So obviously these benefits of carryovers, charitable contribution carryovers, alternative minimum tax credit carry forwards, then the net operating loss carry forwards, and other tax benefits, right? You'll be learning in detail, don't worry about that. What I'm saying here, that these are the some benefits are there, right? So in some cases, such as with the certain energy credit is also there, there's a tax benefit taken once in a prior year, precludes is being taken again, either wholly or partially, in the subsequent year. So basically, that's the reason we refer the prior reason, so that you get the some all the history right, right? So many enroll agent and other professional tax return preparer, they provides their client with the data organizer in the preparation for upcoming tax filing season. So data organizations are useful for gathering the information from client. So obviously I'll do one thing, I will send you the checklist. So basically not we'll be learning the theory part, but also the practical. In practical life, basically we also prepare the checklist. Even if the practicing chartered accountant in India also, they prepare the checklist, right? And they just send the checklist so that you should not miss any of the documents. So based upon the checklist, definitely client will provide you the documents, and that is something is must actually. Otherwise, if you miss any of the documents, there is possibility that you might miss certain useful information for preparation of the return. So obviously the checklist, I'm having a checklist because we used to prepare the tax return, and so it is an exhaustive checklist, let me tell you. And this checklist basically you can go through, and wherever untick items are there, maybe you can find out from the client that this is something which is required. There are certain information which is mandatory is required, and sometimes certain information is only optional. So maybe you can tell client that if it is applicable, then they can fill up, and it's a certain mandatory information like which is must. Without that, you cannot prepare the tax return. So once a taxpayer income tax return is complete, then the proper review of the completed tax return includes a comparison with the prior tax return. At this time, the EA may note the discrepancy between the transactions reported in the 2 years. So obviously, we take a help of previous years, basically, that is there any discrepancies or something like that. And since in most of the cases, people financial lives are consistent from year to year. The major change in a tax year return from 1 year to another year should prompt the EA to find out why these major differences exist. So obviously, when you are comparing with the last year, obviously you get to know actually, because the most of the facts are remaining common, right? Only if you find any changes, obviously you can question that is there any change is there. And just as a certain transaction in the prior impact the current year's income tax return, the current year's income tax return may have an impact on the future tax return, right? And certain transactions reported in the current year could generate losses that could be carried back to prior year and carry forward to later years, right? So basically in US, but anyway, in 2023 they're changing also. So in addition, the certain decision relating to expensing and the depreciation made in the current year will impact your future tax years also. So basically, the remember one thing that the depreciation as per the IRS is different, and the depreciation as per the accounting standard is different. So basically, especially for the business tax, so business tax return, you have to learn US GAAP. And I'll tell you the basic knowledge is required, and I'll be teaching also, because in your syllabus definitely they are not covering the US GAAP. Obviously, if you want to prepare the business tax return, you should know that how the financial statements are prepared, because you have to also prepare M1 reconciliation. M1 reconciliation is nothing but net income as per the US GAAP, and we compare with the net income we compute as per the IRS. So IRS is also rule based accounting, and the US GAAP is also rule based accounting. Whereas if you see in India, we have IFRS, we converge with IFRS. IFRS is a principle based accounting. It is not a rule based accounting. So basically, US follows the US GAAP, and that is something which is they will not converge with IFRS. And obviously, they are thinking that the IFRS basically is a principle based accounting. The options are available, and sometimes people take advantage. Sometimes I prefer rule based accounting because consistency is maintained. For example, if you want to compare financial of one company with another company, if it is a rule based accounting, obviously then it becomes very simple actually. Otherwise, if if there are different options are available. For example, if you see the IFRS, right, cash flow statement, now interest expenses is sometimes you may have an option. Either you can treat as a operating or you can treat as a financials, right? Then this is something which is you have to learn actually, right? You have to read notes forming part of the balance sheet. But however, in case of US GAAP, it is clearly said that okay, these are the line item of expenses, how we are going to treat. So basically it becomes very easy. Obviously, there are certain US GAAP provision. Now they have converted IFRS like revenue recognition principle. So obviously, they are converging if they find that this is a beneficial, then they converge with the IFRS. But I don't think so. They are planning to fully converge with IFRS, because they have removed the IFRS from CPA syllabus. So the signal is very clear that they are not planning to converge with IFRS, right? So future CPAs may not know the IFRS, but in India we should know IFRS, because IFRS and US GAAP it's like a two language, right? Two accounting language. So obviously, for example, if you are if you want to consolidate your MNC companies subsidiary, obviously you should know the two languages, because here the accounts are prepared as per the IFRS, the Indian accounting standard, whereas in US it is US GAAP. So obviously you should know the two languages, right? Otherwise, how can you consolidate the financial statements? So basically, the taxpayers biographical information is also very important, right? So the taxpayer must provide the enroll agent with his or her date of birth is important, your age is important, your marital status, your social security number, in order for the EA. For example, here we have Aadhaar number, right? There is a social security number, but the social security number they use often. They use often. That's why it's a confidential. Basically, people don't disclose social security number, because all the transaction they track with the help of social security number, right? Here basically now they are linking the Aadhaar card number with the pen card number, but basically that only once is social security number, and you get all the details of the individual. Is a personal information, right? Obviously, when we file the tax return, we have to follow some guidelines. So basically, social security number we cannot see, right? Because they scan the document, but SSN number is suppose it is very confidential, basically, because this is something someone can even misuse, right? So they mask the social security number, and whenever they outsource the tax return to India. Not only that, they have to also disclose to the client that we are getting the work done from the India. That is a there is a last year only they introduced this provision that you are supposed to disclose to client that we are giving you discount because we are getting the done from the India, right? So obviously, uh, this is something which is important. And so what we are planning to do now is that let us first understand the what exactly the category of income, and then I will just walk through the tax forms. So remember one thing, that at least you should be familiarized with the tax form, and then we will deep dive and getting into details. So obviously, it is a first time when you see that, okay, fine, oh my god, this is a lot of details are there. Don't get worried. So we definitely going to revisit again and again and try to understand the tax forms, right? Again, I'm telling you, US tax is not at all difficult, right? You can I can rest assured that it's like